We've all been there, right? That little jolt of anxiety when you open your banking app. You do that quick mental math on every single purchase. Can I really afford this coffee? Or is it going to be ramen again for the rest of the week? It's exhausting. And we're all looking for that one number, that magic number that just makes the anxiety stop. So what is it? What is the actual number that fundamentally changes your relationship with money? The one that flips a switch in your brain from just surviving to actually building wealth? Let's dig in, because I promise you the answer is not what you think. You hear it all the time from the so-called gurus, don't you? You need $1,000,000 or a six-figure salary is the only way. But what if I told you that's all just wrong? Seriously. They're pointing you toward this distant, almost impossible finish line, but they're completely missing the real turning point. There's an invisible barrier, something much, much smaller, that when you cross it, the entire game changes. And that barrier is what we're calling the $20,000 paradigm shift. This is the exact moment you stop fighting a brutal uphill battle and finally feel the momentum shift in your favor. It's the real dividing line between those who stay stuck and those who start to build serious wealth. That's the number, $20,000. And look, this isn't just some number pulled out of thin air. This is the first major milestone where the fundamental laws of money, the very mechanics of how it grows, actually start to work for you instead of against you. This is when the game truly begins. To really get this, I want you to picture something. Building wealth is like trying to push a giant boulder up a really steep hill. At the beginning, it feels impossible, right? Every single inch is a grueling fight. Well, that $20,000, that's the moment you finally heave that boulder over the crest of the hill. See, before that point, you are fighting gravity with everything you've got. But the second that boulder tips over the edge, gravity becomes your ally. It starts rolling on its own. But the biggest change isn't even in the physics of your money, it's in your head. You switch from survival mode, where you're just putting out one financial fire after another, to growth mode, where you can actually look ahead and plan. And this isn't just some nice idea. We've got hard data to prove it. Research from Vanguard, a huge investment company, found that just having a tiny $2,000 buffer boosts a person's financial well-being by 21%. But look what happens when you get that buffer up to $20,000, which is, about 3 to 6 months of expenses for most people. You create real breathing room. You stop asking, how am I going to survive? And you finally get to ask, okay, how can I grow? All right, now this is where things start to get really fun. Once your brain has made that shift, the math behind your money starts to do some, frankly, wild things. This is where your money engine truly fires up for the first time. Let's just run the numbers. Say you're a machine, and you're saving $1,000 a month. To get your first $20,000 from scratch, that's going to take you about 19 months of pure grinding discipline. But what about the next $20,000? You're still saving the same amount, but suddenly it only takes 17 months. Wait, what? How is that even possible? It's possible because that first 20 grand is now working for you. It's like you hired your first employee, and it works 24/7, generating its own money. You just shaved 2 whole months off your timeline, not because you worked any harder, but because your money started working for you. And this just gets faster and faster over time. Fast forward a few years, and that same 20 grand that took you nearly 2 years of grinding to save, your investments can generate that in just a few months. People think the wealthy have all these secret, complicated investment strategies, but for the most part, they don't. They just have scale. Think about it. A 10% return on $1,000 is $100. It's nice, but it's not changing your life. But a 10% return on $20,000, that's $2,000. Now that is money that actually makes a difference. The game is the same. The scale is just bigger. But honestly, the math isn't even the most powerful part of this. The most profound change is what happens inside you. Because to save $20,000 from nothing, you have to prove to yourself, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that you control your money. It doesn't control you. And that discipline builds a kind of financial superpower. And that superpower has a name: walking away money. Before you have this buffer, you're trapped. A toxic boss, a job you hate, you put up with it because you absolutely need that next paycheck. But with this foundation, the whole dynamic flips. You are no longer making decisions from a place of desperation. And this kicks off an amazing feedback loop in your career. Because you have a safety net, you stop acting out of fear. You can walk into your boss's office and negotiate for that raise you know you deserve, because the worst they can say is no, and you'll be fine. And ironically, that lack of desperation makes you seem more confident, which makes you more valuable, which leads to better opportunities. It feeds on itself. But
I have to give you a critical warning here. There's a final boss you have to defeat. It's a trap, and it's the one that 90% of people fall right into after hitting this amazing milestone, and it completely wipes out all their progress.
So you did it. You hit your $20,000 goal. You feel secure, maybe a little wealthy for the very first time. And you think to yourself, I've worked so hard. I deserve a reward. And that's the moment you go out and buy the single biggest wealth destroyer there is at this stage.
A new car? Please, just don't do it. It is the single most destructive financial landmine you can step on at this point. A car payment is literally a system designed to make you look rich while keeping you poor.
Just look at the insane opportunity cost. That $30,000 car doesn't just cost you 30 grand. Oh no. Over 20 years, that's more than $200,000 in lost investment growth. One choice becomes a pile of worthless metal. The other choice, that could have been your freedom.
And here's a fact that should absolutely shock you. The average person over their lifetime will spend more money on cars, the payments, the insurance, the gas, the repairs, than it would take to become completely financially independent. Just let that sink in for a second. So here's the real takeaway. Once you build this foundation, you unlock an entirely new way of thinking. You can finally stop sweating the small stuff. Who cares about the price difference between organic and regular bananas? It's irrelevant. Instead of obsessing over $3 coffees, you can finally focus your energy on the big levers that actually move the needle: your housing, your career, and your investments. Look, $20,000 isn't going to make you rich overnight. That's not the point. What it does is represent the fundamental shift from surviving to thriving. It is the dividing line between reacting to whatever life happens to throw at you and actively getting to design the life you want. And you can start building that life today. Every single dollar you save is a vote for a future that has more freedom, more options, and more control. Your future self is literally counting on the choices you make right now. So, what are they going to be?